thank you for those who are here in the Sierras with us, where we've got an amazing dumping of snow that I know is impacting all sorts of things, power and internet and driving. So we are going to just get ourselves together with everybody who's here and welcome folks as they come late. And let's just not worry about that. So I'm glad everybody is here and safe. And thank you all for coming. We're excited to see everybody here. I'm Kate Frankfurt. I'm the Chief Philanthropy Officer of the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation. And on behalf of our CEO, Stacy Caldwell, I want to thank you for joining our Forest Futures Salon, an overview on the Safer from Wildfires insurance program. With so many people on the call tonight, we're going to be using the chat for questions, and we ask that you please keep yourself on mute. We do have folks from our staff who are monitoring the chat very carefully, and we will make sure to see everything that you put there. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to recognize our incredible board and staff who are here with us tonight, who tirelessly support this work. We have an incoming board member with us tonight, Rob Darby. Thank you for joining us. Our Forest Futures staff, Nicole Lutkemuller and Sachet Cantu and Christina Kind from our Mountain Housing Council. Thank you for everybody for your amazing support. So it's the intersection of housing and forestry that's bringing us together today for what I know will be a fascinating and informative discussion. As we look to a sustainable future for our region, the Safer from Wildfires insurance program presents one step in the right direction, reducing risks with clear goals and effective actions to help make our homes and businesses safer from the threat of wildfire. Through the nexus of our Mountain Housing Council and our Forest Futures initiatives, the Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation is poised to play an instrumental role in facilitating increased access to the program and to the discounts it offers. As we all know, this past fire season was one of the worst on record, lasting longer than ever before, with mega fires surrounding our Tahoe Truckee community. There are wildfires that are raging right now in Arizona, and the behavior of those fires and the fires we experienced here was different than expected. Jumping terrain we had thought would serve as a break. In fact, the idea that wildfire has a season is now also very much in question, with wildfires sprouting up around the country through the winter seasons, causing evacuations and untold losses. And I think it's probably safe to say that wildfire is now a year-round threat here in the West. Our community here in Tahoe is nothing if not resilient, and we are not ones to sit back and wait. Forest Futures, TTCF's newest initiative, is our response to climate action and to the immediate threat that our community faces from wildfire in the region. Born after 4 years of deep learning alongside some of the foremost experts in the field, Forest Futures is a bold, entrepreneurial, and strategic model for how community foundations can take a lead role in confronting the local impacts of climate change. There are 3 areas of impact: protect communities, reducing fuels, establishing fire breaks, making sure key evacuation routes are clear, and supporting the development and use of technology to keep us informed. Building a forest economy, funding for workforce development, infrastructure, and industry to utilize hazardous forest waste while strengthening the economy in our region. And finally, accelerate market solutions, scaling and speeding the forest management while creating a model that can be replicated in other global mountain communities. It's a strategy built on long-standing relationships, one built from the ground up rather than from the top down. And we are deploying flexible and nimble capital to fill needs and gaps, accelerating projects, permits, and progress, with funds flowing into the community almost as quickly as we can raise them. We are so proud to have raised $3.35 million to date, and to have released $1 million into the community just last month, with a focus on projects that will have the greatest immediate impact to protect our region and workforce development efforts to serve a forest economy. Another $1 million is set to release at the beginning of June. TTCF has been here before. Our nearly 25-year history has positioned us well as a trusted leader with our ear to the ground and with an innovative and collaborative approach to addressing our community's greatest needs. The Mountain Housing Council, a program of TTCF, focuses on addressing our growing housing crisis by accelerating local housing solutions. The council is composed of 29 diverse stakeholders, ranging from businesses to local governments and community groups. Our nationally recognized housing work is now being replicated in other mountain communities ranging from South Lake to Telluride, and our emergency response fund model, which we established during COVID, has informed the structure of Forest Future's flexible and nimble trust-based philanthropy. So we still have much to learn as a community, and these Wildfire 101 salons, of which this is a one, is our great place to start. With that, I want to introduce to you our moderator for the evening, Nicole Littke-Mueller, Program Director for Forest Futures, along with our colleagues, Tara Zuardo and Christina Kind of the Mountain Housing Council. And Nicole will also lead tonight's Q&A. Nicole, take it away.
Thanks, Kate. Just as a reminder, as Kate stated at the beginning, due to the high number of attendees we have tonight, we are going to ask that questions be placed in the chat. And you can place those questions in the chat at any time during any of the presentations. And our staff is going to be copying those questions into a document. And then we'll go through the questions after all of the presentations are over. And we ask again that you keep yourself muted, and we will actually read the questions off to our group of speakers to address those questions just for efficiency's sake. So without further delay, I'd like to introduce our first two speakers from the California Insurance Commission. We have Duria Syed and Peter Meza from the California Department of Insurance. And Duria is a Northern California outreach analyst in the Community Relations and Outreach branch and has served the department for over 10 years. Peter is an associate insurance compliance officer in the Community Relations and Outreach branch and has been heavily involved in the insurance industry for over 34 years. I'm going to share our presentation and let you two take it away. Go ahead. Oh, are you seeing the presentation?
Yes.
Great.
Okay. Just a second. I am seeing, just a second. Thank you. Thank you, Mountain Housing Council and Tahoe Truckee Community Foundation for the invitation to join this afternoon. My name is Duria Syed, and I will be your presenter, and Peter Meza will be joining me after a few slides. Thank you for the opportunity to share what we are doing at the California Department of Insurance. We are happy to be with you and the resident of Tahoe area to give an update on the work we have been doing on your behalf. Next slide, please. California's devastating wildfires are a call to action. We are using every tool available to improve insurance for Californians. These last couple of years, after the most devastating wildfires in our state's history, we have prioritized meeting with wildfire survivors and Californians across our state. We met with 16,781 people over wildfire insurance issues since 2019. We held community meetings in 36 counties in 2019 and 2020, and 45 virtual meetings in 2020 and 2021. Next slide, please. I would like to point out the role of the insurance commissioner. The mandate is to protect consumers by ensuring a fair and competitive insurance market, maintain insurer solvency through appropriate property and casualty rates, auditing through market conduct surveys, resolving consumer complaints, and investigating and prosecuting insurance fraud, and enforce the insurance laws of California, it is essential to understand any changes to the insurance code required legislation. Now, please welcome my colleague, Peter Meza, to do the rest of the presentation.
Peter, you
Yes, I do. I realize. Thank you. What the technical things that we deal with Zooms and so forth. So good to be here. Thank you, Daria, for that introduction there and for that going over the first couple of slides. I'm just going to we're going to get into safer from wildfire, this framework that everybody wants to know about. And if we can continue there where it says increased risk driving issues on the PowerPoint,
yes,
it's going to be important. All right, if we get that back up there, you want me to share mine?
Sorry, I'm having a little bit of a technical issue.
No worries. I don't know if it'll allow me to do it. I could also do it if you want me to.
I think Caroline's going to take over.
Okay. She has it right there.
There we go.
Perfect. From this current slide. Awesome. Okay, so here we are. So some of the things that are driving the increase of risk and also the premiums are that the 10 of the last 20 most destructive wildfires in California's history occurred in the last 4 years. You can imagine that. So as risk increases, the cost of insurance also increases and the availability of coverage decreases. And that's the issue that a lot of people are going through. Insurers have to consider their most recent past to underwrite and determine the rates for the very near future. So they're looking at their experience, their loss experience from just the last couple of years. And with 25 billion in residential and commercial losses in 2017 and 2018, you know, they're really concerned. So next slide, please. Now, I want you to understand something, keeping your coverage. If you can go to that slide where it says keeping your coverage. Yes. So insurance companies, they basically can non-renew for almost any reason that it's risk related. If they see a risk, then they can actually non-renew it. They can actually, a claims history can cause a non-renewal. You know, if they see that too many claims have been put in on a property. Things under your control, let's talk about those things. That's the condition of the property, the roof, the plumbing, things like that sort. Those are the things that are under your control. Brush on your property, like leaves in the gutter and so forth, the surrounding area around the defensible space, flammable items stored on the property like gasoline or propane. These different things are under your control, but things that you can't control are like the location of your property. You know, is it near a brush? Is it in the WUI? Is it near the forest? Uncleared brush on your neighbor's property. We get these complaints all the time. You know, it's like, hey, my neighbor's not taking care of their yard, but it's impacting my rate and it's affecting my opportunity, my ability to obtain insurance. Then, of course, the risk score, the actual risk score that is used by the insurance company, that's not in your control. If we go to insurance, consumers should be able to rely on their coverage. Non-renewals are unjust and unfair. We hear this all the time. They say, hey, you know, non-renewals, I got a non-renewal, even though I've been with this insurance company forever. You know, I've had a long tenure, you know, with this insurance company. I've been paying for 20 years. And all of a sudden, you know, everything changed. All of a sudden, my risk score went up higher. There's no consideration for pre-mitigation or structure fire hardening. You do everything that you're supposed to, okay? As a homeowner, as a responsible person, and you're doing all the things that everybody in the community is telling you that needs to be done, the fire department, CAL FIRE, and everything. And so there's no change in the individual property risk. You know, we hear this all the time. I've been with, you know, keeping my property the same for the last 10 years. I get renewed every year. Suddenly, you know, the insurance company comes up and says, hey, you're high risk. Wait a minute, nothing's changed, you know. There's no clear statewide standards for a fire resistant structure or mitigated property. I understand there are some things that are being encouraged statewide and so forth, but not that the insurance companies are required to utilize. So that's where we're going to get into. Businesses don't know the risk scores and they're not able to mitigate their scores and find or how to keep their coverage. So, you know, that's a problem. There's insufficient coverage in the FAIR plan. These are all the things we're hearing. Let's go on to the next slide. So let's talk a little bit about what has happened between 2019 and 2021. There was a one-year moratorium from non-renewals in selected areas. It started in 2019, first time utilized by the insurance commissioner. It gives them that tool to put a moratorium on non-renewals when there is a declared disaster in an area, including some of the zip codes that are surrounding the fire. So it was utilized for the first time in 2019, and it's been utilized substantially after that. I think there's been about 4 million or so consumers in the state of California that have benefited from that moratorium or different moratoriums that we've placed, the insurance commissioner has placed. We've also increased the non-renewal date from 45 days to 75 days. It gives you a little bit extra time. I know 45 days was not a whole lot, and 75 days doesn't seem like much more, but it does give you that time to search for other options and for the insurers. SB 872 removes many of the barriers that allows wildfires to receive critical insurance benefits. There were some things that was causing problems for consumers when they had a disaster, and this kind of cleaned that up somewhat. The partnership with the governor's Newsom's office to establish statewide home hardening standards. So this is where we start getting into what we've been doing, what we've been working on. Next slide. So moving forward, and this is where we're getting close to the Safer from Wildfire program framework, require greater transparency. This is what we're looking for from insurance companies. For wild risk score models for homes and businesses, we want to require that these models be taken into account and take account the community and also the individual mitigation that is occurring, okay? It requires these models to be open for public review. It will also allow for consumers to appeal the risk score if they believe it is based on wrong information. So it gives the consumer time to address the mitigation issues and to also to lower their risk score. Next slide. So reducing risk through prevention and mitigation, the best way to make insurance more available and affordable is to decrease the risk of loss. We all know that. If you really lower the risk of loss, then you're going to be able to, you know, make it more, hopefully that's what's going to cause it to be more affordable, you know. And this includes investing in pre-disaster prevention mitigations like building codes, the community building codes, city building codes, fire resistant modification, land use planning, community-wide abatement, defensible space, enhanced infrastructure, and wildfire sensors. Let's go to the next slide. As you know, the old school way of doing things, I used to sell insurance, go to the property, look at it, what are the things they've done on that property, mitigation, and you know, the risk was dependent on just the property itself. And but now it's really looked through the lenses of a satellite image, and they're looking for all sorts of things, the slope, access, all these things that really change, you know, kind of the way things are looked at as opposed to individual, just individual properties. So let's go to the next slide. Prop 103 requires prior approval of California's Department of Insurance before the Department of Insurance. You have to come before the insurers have to come before the Department of Insurance before they can implement their property and casualty insurance rates. So our experts, we have our experts at the Department of Insurance, actuaries that look at this. They review the filings and they ensure the fairness and for consumer compliance with the California law. Now, this is the Prop 103. This is what it states. This is what's in regulation. In the actual wording of the law, it says that rates cannot be excessive, inadequate, unfairly discriminatory, or otherwise in violation of Prop 103. Surplus lines are not subject to this protection. You must know that. They do not have identical statutory authority to issue. We don't have that authority to issue moratoriums for commercial policies of homeowners policies. We cannot require, compel, mandate insurers to sell commercial insurance to any given policyholder. Next slide. So what are we doing with the improving the FAIR plan? We have ordered the FAIR plan to increase the commercial insurance coverage limits, not only on commercial, but also on businesses. So it used to be 3.6. It was the same since the 1990s, and it hadn't moved. It was 3.6 for business owner policies, and commercial property policies were only 4.5. And they have been increased to 7.2 million now for business owner policies, and commercial are at 8.4 million. So the levels have, they're pegged to the consumer price index. So, I mean, like I said, they had been the same for quite a while. So we're happy that that has at least gotten a little bit more in tune with current, the current climate of the consumer price index. Let's go to the next slide. Here we go. Here's the heart of Safer from Wildfires. It's a partnership between the insurance commissioner, Ricardo Lara, and the emergency agencies and Governor Gavin Newsom's administration. It's to protect lives, homes, and businesses by reducing wild risk. And these are the different departments that have worked: the Department of Insurance, Governor's Office of Emergency Services, CAL FIRE, Governor's Offices of Planning and Research, and the CPCU. So it's a first of its kind to certify achievable and effective strategies for business, for homes, business, and communities. And it was just announced February 14th. The hearing was done on April 13th, and the public comment period has ended. And now they are in that place of looking at the regs and so forth. Let's go on to the next slide, which is, I like to call it the 1, 2, 3. Safer from wildfires. If you can remember it as 1, 2, 3. This is the first part. This is talking about the individual property itself, okay? This is the building that is being considered, okay? This is the building. So protect the structure. Start with a Class A rated roof, maintain a 5-foot ember resistant zone around a home, including fencing within 5 feet, non-combustible 6 inches at the bottom of exterior walls, ember and fire resistant vents, and you have to see the low cost retrofit list. It's part of the chapter 7A. Many of you here that are involved with CAL FIRE, you know exactly what we're talking about. Upgraded windows, double paned or added shutters, enclosed eaves. Notice this is about the property itself. This is what I say step 1. This is starting on the individual basis. Let's go on to 2. 2, all of a sudden, you're going around the parameter of the home. Okay, this is the area. So number 2, protecting the immediate surroundings, cleared vegetation and debris from under decks, removal of combustible and sheds and other outbuildings from the immediate surrounding of the home to at least a distance of 30 feet. Defensible space compliance, including trimming trees, removal of brush and debris from the yard, and compliance with state law and local ordinances. So you started with 1, the home, the area around the building. Then you get, you start with the building itself. What does it have? How is the entire building built, and what does it have to protect it? Then you get to number 2, the surrounding area. What does the area around it look like? And then number 3, let's go to the next slide. Now we're working together as a community. Now we're looking at the community mitigation that is occurring. A community that should clearly have defined boundary and a local risk assessment in consultation with a local fire district or state fire agency. It must have an identified evacuation route, clear the vegetative overgrowth, and evacuation plan contingencies, clear funding sources to implement community mitigation activities and meet risk reduction goals, and integrated and up-to-date local planning documents pertinent to community wildfire risk. Now, current examples include the fire risk reduction community designation under the development by the Board of Forestry, okay? Also, another example is a FireWise USA community in good standing, of course, and shelter-in-place designations. Many of you know what I'm talking about when we're talking about these 3 types of communities. These are examples of them. So next slide. Even the LA Times took a look at this back on February 25th, and they said these proposed regulations are going to compel insurers to account for wildfire mitigation efforts. Efforts that are being done by the community, that are being done by an individual in coordination, they believe that they will compel insurers to take these into consideration. So there will be a requirement of greater transparency for businesses and residential consumers, require insurance companies to incorporate the Safer from Wildfire framework in pricing and reward safety actions, okay? So give consumers time to address mitigation to lower their risk scores before a non-renewal, allow consumers to repeal their risk score if they believe it's based upon wrong information. So the regulations were actually announced officially February 25th, and their planned completion is in the summer of 2022. Next slide. Of course, additional steps. We're always looking at what else we can do. Supported the creation of a 20 million just a prescribed burn claims fund in the budget enacted 2021-22. Supportive of SB 332. It's encouraged to and more responsible prescribed burns throughout the state, and it was signed in October 2021. We're currently holding discussion with insurers to encourage more commercial and agricultural writing in California, especially in the WUI, and prioritizing review of commercial rate filings. So we've ordered the FAIR Plan to submit a comprehensive commercial rate filing to ensure businesses are protected and do not unnecessarily face canceled coverage. Currently reviewing for the FAIR Plan's class plan. We're trying to make the FAIR Plan a comprehensive plan, so you don't have to just get a wraparound, what we call wraparound policy, in addition to the FAIR Plan, because as you know, the FAIR Plan is not a comprehensive plan at this time. Reviewing current disqualifying underwriting and eligibility criteria used by the FAIR Plan in making some commercial property ineligible for coverage. And these are amongst other proposals and actions that we're working on. And I believe that's it with the presentation. And I don't know if we want to take the questions now or how we're going to do this, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Peter and Syed. We're going to hold questions until the end, until we get through the fire, or Duria, sorry, I'm so sorry. Thank you for your presentations. We're going to hold questions until the end. We've been writing them down in a document and we'll present them afterwards, but we're going to move on to presentations from our fire districts about local programs and resources that are available to homeowners to hopefully help you achieve some of these lower rates or just maintain your insurance if that's an issue for you. So first we are going to have Sean Bailey from the North Star Fire Department, and Sean is a fire chief and paramedic with the department. And I will go ahead. We were having a little bit of issue trying to get the presentation into presentation mode, so let's see if we can get it to work this time. Are you guys seeing the presentation now?
Yes.
Okay, great. I think I have it. Just need to get to the right slide.
But you gotta love Zoom, right?
Yeah. There we are. Go ahead, Sean.
Okay. Thanks, Nicole, for having me here. It's nice to see everybody here. My name is Sean Bailey. I am the fire chief of the North Star Fire Department. I was asked to give a brief description of our wildfire mitigation efforts out here at North Star. So I will make this as brief as I can. We'll go to the next slide. Okay, so like most departments up here, we do enforce defensible space regulations. We actually have a local ordinance here at North Star that goes above the state standard. We hire our own defensible space inspectors each season to do the inspections. Those inspections include actual boots on the ground, where our inspectors actually go out to the homes and inspect the property. We try to inspect every property within 3 years, and at the present time, we're actually doing more than that. We're almost inspecting every property every 2 years. We prefer to do education, but if education is not enough, then we will follow our ordinance and enforce what we need to. We also, as part of our defensible space inspections, we do custom home hardening suggestions that are recommended on all of our inspection forms. Okay, maybe the next slide. Green waste disposal, this has become a big issue. That pile that you see there, we used to do 2 to 3 of those every year. We finally decided that pile was too much of a risk for us at North Star. So we have changed our program now to where we're going to do curbside pickups. And we'll do 5 of those for our single family houses, 3 for our condominium projects. And then all of that waste goes straight from the curbside straight out to the dump, because we can no longer, risk it with that kind of a pile that we have. But it's getting more and more expensive to dispose of all that green waste. We're also doing a 6-yard dumpster refund for anybody that gets a dumpster. We refund the cost of that. And we're also in the process of planning for a biomass plant where we would burn the biomass out here at North Star and produce heat with that. Next slide. Our fuels management program, we've had a community wildfire protection plan in place since 2005. We have had a fuels management division since 2008. We have been a FireWise community since 2010. We have a full-time year-round registered professional forester, and he reports directly to me. His only job is to mitigate the wildfire threat here at North Star and also improve the forest health. We just added a full-time year-round forestry assistant this year to assist him. We've received a total of $288,000 in approved grants so far, and we have more than $1 million in grants that we've applied for. I'll take the next slide. And this is another big piece here that we're really excited about. In November, we were able to pass Measure U. Measure U is a community-wide tax base that it taxes each parcel out here $219, provide $450,000 annually for our fuels management program. We have an additional matching funds from large homeowners or landowners out here for $157,000 for this first year. And this funding source has allowed us to come up with a 10-year plan that will treat every single acre within the North Star Fire Department's boundary to our ordinance standard. So every single acre within our fire district boundary should be treated within the next 10 years. Next slide. Thanks very much. I appreciate your time today. There's my email address and our website in case you have any other questions.
Thank you so much, Sean, for that information. It's really exciting to see all this work that the fire districts are doing for homeowners and for the community. And with that, we're going to move right into the Truckee Fire Protection District. We have Eric Hornvet with the Truckee Fire Protection District, and Eric is the Wildfire Prevention Manager. Go ahead, Eric.
All right. Well, thanks, Nicole, for having us. I appreciate you pulling this great Forest Future Salon together, and thanks for CDI for their presentation on the Safer from Wildfires program. It's time for those Truckee or Donner Summit residents to listen in. I will be talking to you on the programs that we have going on here in Truckee Fire. Next slide, please. Okay, so I got to tell a little story first before we go in. This is not a new issue, right? We've had wildfire suppression. We've had increased buildup of forest density, unnatural growth, a lack of natural fires. So we have a buildup of fuel, overgrowth, unnaturally dense forests. We have more people moving into the wildland-urban interface. And then climate change coupled with this forest overgrowth problem is just causing compounding issues. You know, we're having wildfire issues, competitive between individual trees, dryness, bark beetles, all those things leading to increased fire intensity. And then we're also seeing more residents, visitors, that's driving ignitions, et cetera. Next slide, please. So this is just an example of some of the fires locally and near us. So I think, you know, their titles and these pictures speak for themselves, but it really shows between, you know, this compounded forest density and the increasing wildfire severity we're seeing each year, why these programs at the individual home level, community level, and at that wildland urban interface level are so important. Next slide, please. Okay, so what's Truckee doing? So in 2021, Truckee Fire voters overwhelmingly supported Measure T, a wildfire prevention tax measure. 95% of the community felt wildfire was the most important issue in the community, and we had almost 80% support by Truckee Fire voters who voted yes on Measure T. This created $179 per parcel per year property tax, and we're going to have about $4 million available in a community wildfire prevention fund to fund programs that are locally managed by the Truckee Fire Protection District. This includes things like defensible space inspections, green waste disposal, a community wildfire protection plan update, a larger landscape forest management and fuel reduction projects, dead tree fund, community grants, evacuation, home hardening, the list goes on the programs we're going to be implementing under the wildfire prevention programs. Next slide, please. So with that, where are we at? You know, it's the time of year. I know we got loaded with snow on a little interesting spring storm here today, but as soon as this snow melts, it's time to get back in and start thinking fire. So think defensible space around homes. You know, that was the first step in the Safer from Wildfire programs, is that you need to take care of your home and the areas surrounding your home first. Zone 0 is the big deal, right? This is coming out through Assembly Bill and into our defensible space requirements soon. In science and wildfire losses have already proven this to be the most important zone. So take care of your home, take care of the first 5 feet around your home, and make sure there's no combustible items, materials, and things of that nature. Also look past your home to your property line. Look at that zone 1, zone 2, out to 100 feet from your house, and make sure you're limbing up trees, removing dead vegetation, and creating adequate separation between trees, shrubs, and other plants. And then make sure you don't look past home hardening. You know, what can you do to the structure itself, you know, to resist that ember ignition? Next slide, please. So if you need help with this, Truckee Fire is offering free defensible space inspections to all residents. So you can go online to truckeefire.org/dspace, and you'll be able to schedule a free defensible space inspection starting in June. So what's going on is Truckee Fire is hiring multiple defensible space specialists this year. We're going to be able to walk properties one-on-one with homeowners, educate them on defensible space and home hardening. And then we're also setting target neighborhoods each year where we inspect every home, every lot in that neighborhood with the goal to increase our number of annual inspections and kind of get at that community defensible space piece. So that way, all the vacant lots, all the developed lots, you know, we have constant 100 feet of defensible space around our community. Next slide. To support your defensible space efforts with funding from Measure T, Truckee Fire is also rolling out 3 affordable green waste disposal options. So for all of that woody biomass, shrubs, tree limbs, trees up to 8-inch material, you have 2 free options. One of those is free curbside pickup and haul away. You take all that woody biomass, you stack it roadside, you sign up for a request at truckeefire.org/green waste, and then a crew comes by with a grapple truck and actually grabs the pile, loads it up, and then we haul it to the Eastern Regional Landfill for material processing. The other option is free curbside chipping. So kind of a more traditional program. You stack that material curbside, a crew comes up with a truck and trailer chipper, and we chip that material on site. So those chips are left to be broadcasted back onto the property, left into a pile where you can use those to cover bare soil or cover soil erosion, maybe maintain a little more moisture content around some of your low fire risk landscape plants. Another really good option is a green waste dumpster rebate program. So if you have a lot of pine needles, pine cones, or you just want to use a dumpster instead of these other programs, you can go to TTSD. You can reserve a 6-yard green waste dumpster. Once you use that dumpster and you paid for it, you provide the receipt back to the fire district, and we'll be reimbursing residents up to $75, which almost covers the cost of one of these 6-yard green waste dumpsters. So again, if anyone's interested in these programs, truckeefire.org/green waste. Other work that's going on is large van fuel reduction. So Truckee Fire is finishing up about $3 million worth of grant funded fuel reduction around the community. And then we'll also be working to update our community wildfire protection plan and shift into those Measure T wildfire prevention forest fuels management projects for future years. Next slide, please. So there's the CWPP update. I wanted to put that on here because these updates are really important for the community. It's important that we get all of our agencies together, land managers, fire agencies, as well as the community to have input in this plan. This plan will end up being a prioritized list of lands within the wildland urban interface that need forestry and fuel reduction treatment, and it will serve as a guide for our implementation of Measure T funded forest management and field reduction projects around the Truckee and Donner Summit communities. Next slide, please. With that, here's my name, there's my email, phone number. If there's any specific questions for us at Truckee Fire, you can grab that now or go to truckeefire.org and you can get our contact information there. Happy to talk with you all. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Eric. We're going to move right into our final presentation, and we have Erin Holland from the North Tahoe Fire Protection District.
Hi, Nicole. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share information on the many ways that North Tahoe Fire provides support to the community and how, by working together, we can make our communities adapted to withstand wildfire. The fire agencies that are located in the Tahoe Basin are all members of the Tahoe Fire and Fuels team, which was formed in 2008 after the Angora fire to implement the Lake Tahoe Basin multi-jurisdictional fuel reduction and wildfire prevention strategy. So we have been doing this work at the landscape level for quite some time now. As a member of the Tahoe Fire and Fuels team, North Tahoe Fire has access to grant funding that helps our residents from the state line in the Brockway Kings Beach area all the way down through Meeks Bay to prepare their communities to withstand wildfire. Our chipping and defensible space inspection program is available at no cost to our residents from June through October. And we are also able to support neighborhood leaders as they organize efforts and events, helping residents with organized community work days. And we can do that in multiple ways, including green waste dumpsters. We support communities that want to become fire adapted or that want to achieve FireWise USA recognition by providing wildfire risk assessments and other support. If you look at just this one source of grant funding that was made available to the Tahoe Fire and Fuels team in 2016, and will be closed out after this fire season, you can see how incredibly impactful it has been across the basin. Christmas Valley is largely credited to still be standing after the Caldor fire due to these types of ongoing collaborative community efforts. So, so we can see firsthand how big of an impact these efforts really make and how effective they are. Next slide. If you're able to play the video. This video, our Forest Fuels coordinator took last year showing our curbside chipping program and how efficient the hand crews are at chipping piles in the community to reduce hazardous fuels. It's also a great comfort to have these skilled hand crews working in the community as they can be pivoted to work on wildfire should the need arise. Go ahead to the next slide.
Is that video playing, Erin, or no?
It is not.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries, no worries.
Whoops. There we go.
Placer County hosts an annual green waste event for Placer County residents that will take place across Eastern Placer County on the dates on the following slides. In North Tahoe, they have 3 locations available on June 18th. Things to keep in mind for this event is that customers must unload the material themselves, and this is for residents only. No dirt, rocks, sod, rounds, or bags are permitted. This is green waste only, and proof of Placer County residency is required, and they do have a maximum load of 3 yards. I'm also going to provide a QR code with links to this information on the very last slide. So if you miss this information, don't sweat it. Next slide, please. At the same time, Olympic Valley is also going to be having a Placer County location in their community, and that's going to be at the PSD district office at the same time, June 18th, 7:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. Next slide. Placer County has made 3 dates available to Truckee residents, all located at the rodeo grounds, and that's May 20th, June 4th, and June 17th. Those dates are from 8 to 2. Next slide. And I've included some QR codes here to link you to more information if you're interested in North Tahoe's newsletters and other information, including notification of red flag weather events. You can sign up for defensible space and chipping, learn more about ways North Tahoe Fire can support your community in becoming FireWise, and you can find details for this year's free green waste event put on by Placer County by following these links. I'll also add a few items in the chat so that you have direct links that way as well. And with that, I will go ahead and end there unless there's any questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erin. And thanks to all of our speakers today. So much information that I think is so critical to share with the community. And we did get quite a few questions during the presentations. Most of them are around the insurance program, but there was one question that I think would be suited for one of the fire district representatives to answer. So I'm going to go ahead and address that one first, and then we'll move into the more insurance focused questions. So one of the questions was regarding chips, and I've heard this question a lot from a lot of people. And the question was just that whether wood chips being broadcast on the property, if that is a fire risk itself, or if you can speak to how that still is, a better option than having the existing green waste there versus the chips.
Yeah, I can speak to that one. So again, hey everybody, Eric Hornby, Wildfire Prevention Manager with Truckee Fire. So the short answer is typically no. So wood chips, right? We're taking fuel, we're taking shrubs, tree limbs, small trees, things that, are traditionally called fuel in a wildland fire. We're removing them from the property. So we're rearranging that fuel in a way that would be less severe. And then we're chipping them. And that chip material is woody. It's really close to the ground, and we're not using it next to the home. So the guidelines that most of us have for our chipping programs, we do not allow you to use that wood chip within 5 feet of your home. We ask that you use it, more so in that 30 to 100 foot zone, and use it sparingly, 2 to 3 inches deep. If you do use it to cover some bare soil or for some landscaping purposes within that first zone, zone 1 within 30 feet of your home, it's usually less than an inch or about an inch deep. And it's usually used more in focused pocket areas, right? You're covering bare dirt, maybe where you park vehicles or high traffic walkways for you, pets, things like that. Or you're using it right around the base of plants to help retain soil moisture and water retention. So as long as you're using that material correctly, I think you can, mitigate wildfire issues. So I think it's just important how you use it and that you don't use too much on one given property.
Thanks, Eric. One other question just came in directed at North Tahoe Fire, and that is whether or not North Tahoe Fire is planning any voter measures similar to what Truckee and North Star have passed in the future for funding green waste and defensible space work.
Right now, we do not have plans. It is something that we do keep an eye on, but because we have other sources of grant funding that are funding this type of work right now, we didn't want to impose that burden on our residents until we had no other source. So right now we are funded through these grant programs. Unfortunately, they're only available within the Tahoe Basin. So for our Alpine Meadows community, that is not something that's available to them. But as long as that funding holds out, we'll lean on that as much as we can.
Thanks, Erin. All right, we're going to move into some questions about the new insurance program. And I'm going to start with, there's kind of 2 similar questions around the FAIR plan and just insurance plans in general, and whether there is ever going to be a rule or a requirement for insurance companies to consider mitigation efforts in their rates. It seems like right now it's all more of a kind of a recommendation. So will there be a time when there's a requirement for discounts or for insurance to be given through mitigation efforts?
Okay, so just speaking in general right now, the actual regulations that are going into effect are not going to be optional. They are going to be required by insurance companies. So as far as insurers, it is our understanding, and I want to kind of save that for to come back as far as the FAIR plan, because I am actually expecting a text from General Counsel on that one. So I will say this, that all insurance companies, and FAIR plan is also considered an insurance company. So it would apply to all insurers that they're required to use the Safer from Wildfire. As far as will the FAIR plan, will it or will it not? Remember, they're only a fire policy. So, but I will give you clarification before we get off this line today, hopefully. I'll be more than happy to answer the other questions, and I'll loop right back around to this, whether the FAIR plan is also included on this.
Thanks, Peter. Next question we're going to go to regarding the wildfire risk score for
Yes.
regions. What are the variables that go into that score? Are those scores and plans filed with the Department of Insurance? Does each company calculate them differently, or are they the same across the board?
That's a great question. So this is what happens. So the insurance companies, and there's various fire score risk models that they've been using for years and years, including Fireline, ISO, and there's a few others that they utilize. So these risk models have been something that they've held they wouldn't allow the risk score information and data to be public, not even to the Department of Insurance, because they said there was a lot of proprietary and trade secrets, and so it would really throw things off. And so, they resisted in ever opening that data to us. The regulations are very specific as to these models have to be open for public, for our department to look at, and they have to be accessible so that it's public information to get the risk score, and then the data information has to be provided to us, all the data with regards to how it was put together. So what is put into these risk score models, it includes the slope, the access, the fuel, any community level mitigation that has been put into. So these are things that we understand that they have put into these risk score models, but we don't have access to them at this point. That's something that we anticipate that once these regulations are filed with the Secretary of State, hopefully by the end of the summer, or by the time sometime this summer, then we will have access to that information. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Okay, next question we're going to go to, there was kind of two similar ones addressing new markets writing homeowners and business property insurance. So have there been any new markets in the past few years that have entered California to write homeowners or business owners insurance that covers wildfire?
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I'm sorry. I was just getting a text on that question about the FAIR plan.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just got a text from our general counsel for the Department of Insurance, and he's indicating that that particular question on whether the FAIR plan is going to be subject to the regulations, that any of those questions actually just come to the department at our CDI regulations, because a lot of this is under consideration. There's a lot of things that haven't been solidified as far as the regulations. There was a period that ended April the 13th in our hearing, and the public comments in it at that time. So they're still dealing with what is going to happen and what is not going to happen. So, you know what I'm saying? It's all a gray area right now. So I'm going to put in the chat room in a minute before we end here. In just a minute, I'm going to put our direct number for any of that that question in particular to the FAIR plan. Okay, so whether
Great.
the FAIR plan is going to be in part of this or not. Okay.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay. And what was the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it was, are there any new markets that have entered California to write homeowner or business owner insurance that covers wildfire protection?
Yeah, so I was in Paradise, oh my goodness, maybe about 6 months ago. No, it was a little longer than that. It was about a year or two ago. And we have seen some markets, I believe it's Aegis that was, that entered the market. They were specifically doing manufactured home insurance for manufactured homes. So what happen is a lot of folks in Paradise were able to get into the FAIR plan. However, they couldn't get insurance for, wraparound policy for manufactured homes. And there's a lot of manufactured homes in Paradise. So I was at one of these here at a roundtable representing the insurance commissioner, and one of the insurance agents came by and said, "Hey, Aegis has said they just filed the rates with the Department of Insurance. They have been approved, and they're the only insurance company that is writing at this time." So I know that there have been some insurance like them that have done some of that. So and we're seeing an increase of writing. There's been some commitment. We have about 12 insurance companies that have made a commitment to write additional more policies in the high risk areas. So there is some movement, and that's just kind of an overall and general answer I could give you.
Great, thanks. Let's see, there was a question more specifically related to Firewise community certification. There was an example provided where a community member provided proof of living within a Firewise community to their insurance agent, and then the insurance agent the insurance agent indicated that being in a Firewise community would not impact rates with the California FAIR plan. Can you provide clarity on why the insurance agent said that, or is that part of what's being revised right now? And,
right.
and once everything's finalized, then you will be able to get discounts for being in a Firewise community?
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. So that's what the agent, they presented. Now with the regulations, let me give you an email address, and folks can shoot out their comments and so forth. And then, like I said, the regs are going to be kind of tightened up once, everything's, all the comments have come in. So,
okay. So ideally, hopefully that will then bring a discount or something like that, but everything's still being finalized is what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
And I'm getting ready to put that information in.
Great. Another question. This is more regarding to if you or anyone on the call really is aware of any funding programs that communities can access to apply for to cover home hardening efforts. You know, whether that's a nonprofit applying, local governments, fire districts, but a way to actually get funding specifically for home hardening. Is anyone aware of that type of program?
I know that there are a lot of communities that have written to us that have asked us to do support letters, to write support letters from the Department of Insurance for some fire-wise communities that were obtaining grants. And I'm not sure if they were federal grants or they were state grants, but I know they're out there. So I would encourage you to, you know, to get yourself informed. There's probably some information at the governor's at the website, and also call our department. We can also probably give you some direction as to you know, where you can find some of that information.
Great, thanks. And I guess I'll add on to that a little bit and just say that funding for home hardening is something that Forest Futures is also exploring, whether that's us, you know, applying for existing funding that's out there, or potentially creating a program within our own funding that could potentially provide that type of support. We're exploring that idea as well as a program. Eric, I see you unmute yourself if you want to chime in.
Yeah, I mean, one more chime in for the state level. Assembly Bill 38 did create the California Wildfire Mitigation Program, which is a joint powers authority between Cal OES and Cal Fire. And that is also going to provide, you know, a list of home hardening retrofits, which is already available. There's also a guidance document, the Wildfire Home Retrofit Guide, which you can find on readyforwildfire.com. And there will be some home hardening funding available, mostly in target communities, right? Low income, moderate income, high risk communities. That's at a state level. Locally in Truckee, for Truckee and Donner Summit areas with Measure T, we will have a home hardening rebate program rolling out probably towards the middle of 2023 and beyond. So we will have a mechanism for probably cost share, priority home hardening investments in the Truckee and Donner Summit areas through Measure T starting next year.
Great, thanks, Eric. Let's see. I was going to go this one. I think I know the answer, but I'm going to let our insurance representatives answer it. How can we find out the names of the insurance companies that are writing policies in high-risk areas? I believe it's on the commission's website, but I'll let you clarify that.
It sure is, yes.
Okay.
We have a finder's tool available there, so you can go there and find some insurance companies that are writing in your area. So we encourage folks to do that. You know, we've seen people be creative, and they've actually contacted brokers or agents outside of their area. That's another tool that folks have done that. Just be careful. I've heard agents complain that sometimes people just go crazy and they're contacting every agent, insurance agent, and actually putting in, you know, their request for a quote. And sometimes that causes a lot of confusion with the insurance company, because they're getting 3 or 4 different quotes from 4 different insurance agents, and they're writing different things. So you got to make sure you're careful. But that is something that we've all seen folks that are successful in, you know, getting insurance, finding insurance.
Great, thank you. Is it possible for one of you to put the link to the Finders Tool website in the chat for
Nicole, I just did that.
Oh, thank you, Tara.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I see it. Thank you.
Let's see. I was going to go to, there's a question about new home purchasers or home builders, and how new home purchasers or builders learn about insurance underwriting policies before they're purchasing or building, to know how likely they will be to obtain insurance over time.
It's a great question. So you have to kind of see it as, what is the, you know, just like a home, you know, you think about different areas you're going to buy in San Francisco. A home in San Francisco is going to be a little bit different than if you bought a home in, you know, in San Diego or in a different area. It's the same with insurance. You're going to understand, you're in a WUI area, you're in a high risk area. You can kind of look around and see how the market is with insurance. But, you know, there's no, can I say, a place where you go and you find some sort of matrix, you know. But insurance companies, you know, if you're as a builder, if you contact some insurance companies, they're going to they're going to give you a general idea. What is the cost of insurance for, you know, a 2,000 square foot home in this particular area? So, you know, that's research that has to be done by the builder, but there's no easy matrix, you know, that at least the department provides, you know. So.
Thanks, Peter. This question is about cost of home hardening. Is there a reasonable estimate that anyone has on how much needs to be allotted or saved to do a home hardening effort? And the number 40,000 was asked if that would be enough to retrofit a home.
I think that would be for CAL FIRE or somebody else to answer.
Yeah, I can answer that a little bit again. So it's hard to put a fixed dollar amount, right? It really depends what you do. So right now, some of like the priority home hardening retrofits are things that you saw CDI present on. You know, it's things like looking at double pane windows, those ember and fire resistant vent screenings, Class A roof, right? If you have any other roof that's not Class A with a non-combustible covering, and those are the big ones. And so depending on your house size, location, where you're at, a roof could easily exceed that $40,000 mark. Windows and vents are variable, right? Windows could be anywhere between $500 and $2,000 a piece. Vents, it depends if you're using a screening or an engineered vent, but you can easily spend dollars or, you know, $20 to $100 per vent on your home. And it depends if it's a small vent, like an under eave vent, or, you know, a larger graded vent, roof vent. So it's variable, but usually if you're focusing on, you know, the priority ones, vents, windows, roof, those type of things, you know, if you have a Class A roof, you already have that 6-inch non-combustible barrier up from the foundation. I think $40,000 would typically be enough to do things like double pane tempered glass windows and vent screenings, and probably still have some funding left over to maybe look at decks and fencing and some of those other type of things.
Thanks, Eric. Let's see. There was a question about who is responsible for clearing limbs near power lines and who dictates what is or what is not removed near power lines. I believe I can answer that one. And if anyone has more of a correction, go ahead. But generally power lines are on an easement where the land under them is pretty much owned or managed by the power company. And so the power company would be doing the clearing or the, you know, reduction work along those power lines. I live on one of those easements in Tahoe City on a Liberty Utilities power line easement. And last summer, Liberty Utilities ran a hazard tree removal program, and they actually went from the easement a certain distance onto private property, and they removed about 10 dying trees on my property at no cost to us. And I think that's how most of the power companies work. And if anyone wants to add to that, go for it.
Yeah, Nicole, I think you captured that right. They do. The utility providers are responsible for the vegetation management around their power line infrastructure. The codification of the requirements of that work is actually defined by the California Public Utilities Commissioner. So they have an Order 95 and then a resolution ESRB 4. And then there's also two major public resources code at the state level. That's PRC 4292 and 4293 by CAL FIRE that require additional power line and power pole clearancing. And then there's also the North American Electric Reliability Corporation that has federal level standards over what needs to be done for vegetation management within power line utilities.
So I would assume then if somebody had a concern about, you know, a tree that's on a power line or something, contacting the utility company would probably be the right route there.
That is the perfect route. Yeah, most of the utility companies in the area should have like a hot link on their website to report vegetation concerns.
Great, thanks. And that kind of segues into, we got a number of questions from residents related to neighbors and responsibility around properties that, you know, they're seeing that aren't complying with defensible space or that are kind of being neglected. And was just wondering if the fire district should speak to how a community member could address that issue if it's on, you know, a neighbor's property or somebody in the community that they're seeing that a property just looks like it's super high fire hazard and is being neglected.
I can speak to that. In the North Tahoe area, you can have us come out and schedule a defensible space inspection at your home. And while we're there reviewing your property, you can show us the concerns that you have. And if we note violations, we can then start the process through a curbside inspection of that adjacent property. It's important for people to understand that both El Dorado County and Placer County adopted hazardous vegetation ordinances in the last couple of years, and that now gives us the ability to serve notice on homes that, on undeveloped lots that may be between homes and that that people feel frustrated about. And so, so now that those ordinances are in place, we do have a little bit more option in that regard. But the first step is to just go ahead and schedule a defensible inspection of your home, and then we'll go from there. We'll be taking bookings for defensible space inspections on our website, www.npfire.net, beginning next week. You can start booking those, and we'll begin inspections once we have inspectors in place. We are hiring right now. So if you know anybody interested, please send them our way. But that is the best way to get us out there to see exactly what your concerns are.
Great, thanks, Erin. And I guess this was a similar question that was asked earlier, but rather than just, filing a complaint, what I'm hearing you say is that the best way to address those concerns of other people's properties is to request that you guys come to your own property, and then you can have that discussion when they're at your own property versus trying to file a complaint with Placer County or something along those lines.
Exactly. If you're able to start with us, we can see your concerns from your perspective that we may not be able to see that just from a drive-by or that type of view. So it's really helpful for us to be on the ground with you and see exactly what your concerns are so that we can address them.
Great, thanks. And there were some questions similarly related about some of the open space properties that we all have intermixed in our communities that might be managed by the Conservancy or by the Forest Service or other, open space land managers. How do people go about addressing concerns on properties such as those that might not be privately owned or held by public agencies? Is there an advice you would have on how to address those concerns?
Yes, I put in the chat the contact information both for CTC lots and for U.S. Forest Service lots. And if you are running into issues or anything of that nature, or if you're just not sure who the landowner is, you are always more than welcome to reach out to our prevention team, and we'll help you run that down as well. But the contact information is in the chat.
Thanks, Erin. And I'll just add to that I think CTC and the Forest Service are doing a lot of work on a lot of land, and there's only so much time and money, and we're hoping that everything will get addressed eventually, but definitely bringing those concerns out will help the properties get managed that need it most. So I think that covers most of our questions. We have just like a minute more.
I had one thing I wanted to add, Nicole.
Yeah, go for it.
People that are interested in finding out what fuel reduction projects are underway, and this is again specific within the Tahoe Basin, you can go to TahoeLivingWithFire.com and go to their Get Informed page, and there is a map there, and it'll show if it's whether it's hand crews, whether it's pile burning, whatever the case, you can see what projects are taking place this season.
Thanks, Erin. And before I turn it back over to Kate to close for us, I will just open it back up to any of our speakers if you have any last comments you want to share.
Well, we just thank you for the opportunity, and we want you to know that we're trying to do what we can. We understand the environment that we're dealing with after so many years of dealing with wildfire. So please continue to get in touch with us. The information is there. If a question wasn't answered or you have additional questions, email us at CROB@insurance. It's in the chat. And then if you have any questions about the regs, we have that email there, cdiregs@insurance.ca.gov. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter and Duria, and thanks, Sean and Erin and Eric, for keeping us informed and answering these very good questions so thoroughly this evening. Thanks to you, Nicole, and to the Mountain Housing Council staff, Christina Kind and Tara Zuardo, for their help in bringing the salon together. I can see that the chat is still very active. So we will be sending out contact information for some of our speakers in the email that you will receive following this presentation. So if you want to continue to communicate with folks directly, just let them know that you are participating in this salon, and that's how you know one another. And so hopefully we'll get some more good answers coming back into the community. But thank you everybody for taking time for your day to join us. And thanks to everybody here just for being here. Hope everybody has a good night, and we'll see you again for another Forest Futures Salon shortly. We're going to be hosting some forest walks this summer, where we're going to be going out into our forested areas here with a forester to learn firsthand what we're seeing and what needs to be done. So if anybody is interested in that, please reach out to the TTCF Forest Futures staff. And we will be providing that information in the follow-up email as well. So thanks everybody, and enjoy the snow.